This is another funny story. I was telling my friend the other day. He's big. I saw him guest pose in England. It's an inspiration, big guy. So I'm a fan, basically. Now I'm going to go compete against him. I got to get a little bit ruthless here. Yeah, I can't be a fan anymore.
Lee Haney and Dorian Yates are two prominent names in bodybuilding. While Lee shares the space with Ronnie Coleman for winning the maximum number of Mr. Olympia titles, Dorian is on less with his 6 consecutive wins. Dorian's venture into bodybuilding came when Lee was gradually retreating. Having seen him like an idol, the feeling of sharing the stage with Lee felt surreal for Dorian. However, their feud is also a very hot subject, so let's take a deeper look. Past and today. When the realization finally hit him that he would compete against him, the budding bodybuilder started to change his mind. He made himself believe that even he could beat him up. Considering himself better, Dorian, when he finally shared the stage with Lee, did something unexpected. Taking everyone by surprise, he said he purposely banged his elbow onto him. The incident was hilarious and speaks volumes about the competition the bodybuilders gave each other. Haney today believes the sport has changed drastically since his time in the spotlight. Not only have pro cards become easier to get in his opinion, but bodybuilders lack the quality they once had on the sport's most prominent stages. Overall, he maintains that modern bodybuilders have gained more size but sacrificed muscle separation. The background. Lee Haney was born on November 11, 1959. Less than 2.5 years later, on April 19, 1962, Dorian Yates entered the world. Given the proximity of their birth dates, the law of averages would seem to dictate that their athletic careers would have closely overlapped. As it was, they only met in competition once, a titanic clash at the 1991 Mr. Olympia in Orlando. The reason that these two battleships only passed that one night is because they took up the sport at different ages. Haney got serious about bodybuilding when he was 16 in 1975, and 4 years later, he was 1979 Teenage Mr. America. By 1983, he was a pro and notched his first pro victory that year at the Night of the Champions, 6 months before his 24th birthday. In October 1984, a month before he turned 25, he was Mr. Olympia and would win the title a total of 8 times before he retired after the 1991 event, aged 31. On the other hand, Yates didn't lift a weight with onstage intentions until the summer of 1983 when he was 21 years old. He entered his first contest in 1985 when he was 23 and earned his pro card at the 1988 British Championships, aged 26. He made his pro debut aged 28 at the 1990 Night of Champions and entered his first Olympia in 1991. Thus, at his Olympia baptism, the Brit was 29, while at the same event, the Awesome One was 31, and with 8 Sandows said sayonara to the sport. The great rivalry which never happened. Just think if Haney had started bodybuilding a few years later, or Yates had started a few years earlier, they could have provided bodybuilding's version of the Ali versus Frazier battle. As it was their one epic clash, it still lives in the memory of those who witnessed it. The following is based on scribblings in my tattered notebook. In those days, doing something digital would have been giving someone the finger, which accompanied me to the event. It was Saturday, September 14, 1991, a day of destiny in which Lee Haney would attempt to win his 8th Olympia crown and so eclipse the 7-title haul of Arnold Schwarzenegger. At 4:25 p.m., as the prejudging was coming to an end, the 3,000 muscle devotees present in the Walt Disney World Dolphin Hotel Theater in Orlando did not know that they were about to witness bodybuilding's equivalent of gunfight at the OK Corral, High Noon, and all the Rocky movies rolled into one. A call-out involving Francis Benfato, Thierry Pastel, and Akeem Albrecht had just been completed, and the judges were now set to make the last call of the muscularity round. For once, the officials and audience were united. The only comparison anybody wanted to see required only 2 protagonists. The head judge duly obliged by calling out Lee Haney and Dorian Yates. The 2 athletes slowly emerged from their positions on either side of the 27-man lineup to begin the longish walk to center stage. The decibel level threatened to lift the roof as the crowd bayed in drooling expectancy of this ultimate mano-a-mano clash. Halfway to the center, Haney shot a glance mixed with a half-grin in Yates' direction. The Englishman's stony expression duplicated his condition. This was war, and he wasn't about to be beguiled by his adversary's good old boy smile. The combatants came closer, their strides purposeful and deliberate as they ominously made their way to ground zero. Each concentrated unblinkingly on the whites of the other's eyes, like a pair of gunslingers who knew this particular town was just not big enough for the 2 of them. The duelists reached their assigned positions, Yates to Haney's left, and the 1991 Mr. Olympia contest was about to reach its shrieking crescendo. Unexpected winnings. The raw-boned kid we first saw as a novice 6 years previously had just beaten all-time great Lee Haney in the muscularity round, and the judges were to see it that way also. To the deafening accompaniment of an inspired crowd howling, stamping, and venting their gratification at witnessing and being part of maybe the greatest muscle showdown of all time. Haney and Yates had flexed their all in a head-to-head, no prisoners taken brutal war of Olympia attrition, in which 7 poses had taken a full 4 minutes to complete. After the prejudging Yates confessed that he thought he was second and had no complaints if Haney won. Of course, history records he was right, because despite the Brit taking the muscularity round, Haney took the symmetry and posing rounds, and thus his 8th Sandow. But what an epic battle it was, and if the timing of the onset of their careers had been closer, who knows what fireworks we would have seen if they had met multiple times. Still, we are left with the insolvable debate of would Haney have been able to handle a 1993 and onwards Yates, or would he have been jolted into further improvement by a rival who matched him in height and muscle, and who could take him on in back shots. Dorian speaks on the famous fight. All set to give his best at his debut, Mr. Olympia Dorian was all pumped up. New to the whole new professional world of bodybuilding, the budding bodybuilder had no clue about how Lee was in real life. So when a guy from New York told him that Lee was very aggressive and told him he'll try to intimidate you, Dorian believed him. As for Dorian himself, he was pretty aggressive on the stage too. Now, with a preset notion about Lee and his already competitive spirit, Dorian was all set to set a benchmark in his 1992 debuted Mr. Olympia competition. As the competition progressed, 2 got call out. Dorian knew this was it, and he was just an inch closer to securing his win. Leaving no scope for the defending champion, he was all ready for the showdown. Narrating the incident, he quoted, "I'll start to walk out and Lee's give me the, a friendly smile." Instead of reciprocating with a smile, Dorian gave him a stone face. While Lee was quite unbothered and continued with the usual drill and his semi-relaxed pose, Dorian, on purpose, banged his elbow into him. Quoting Lee's expression, Dorian says, "He must have been, 'What the hell is this crazy?'" What followed next? Sharing more insights about the said incident with Patrick Bet David, the 6 times Mr. Olympia champion says he deliberately banged Lee a couple of times. Though Lee was not reciprocating for a long time, when the time for the pose down came, he could not hold himself back any further. Lee took the opportunity. He spread his arms in a way that made Dorian appear at his back. He kind of got him and was fully aware of it. Lee clipped Dorian with his knuckle. That year, Dorian, much to his dismay, could not claim the title. The 2 legends sat down and talked one-to-one afterward in attempts to bury the hatchet, but this came many years later. Apologizing for his behavior, Dorian said Lee was his long-due sorry. Speaking on the same, Dorian quoted, "Well, this happened, and it's kind of a BS story, and I'm young, and I'm psyched up, and I'm sorry." That's all for this video, folks. See you another time.